Tonight, minority accused President Akufo-Addo of taking advantage of the Constitution to pad the courts as he nominates 3 new judges to the Supreme Court.
I am shocked to hear that vacancies have been created when there are no such vacancies. The president is simply padding the courts with more numbers.
But the majority side is fighting back.
He is a lawyer. He should tell us the legal basis for that statement. That is a sweeping statement. It's not tenable. It's not based in law. So she should know better. I'm surprised my good friend Dafemeko will make such a strange statement. Packing the court. What is that supposed to mean?
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Vodafone. Tonight, the minority in Parliament is accusing President Akufo-Addo of taking advantage of the Constitution to pad the Supreme Court. The President has nominated 3 persons to the Apex Court. If the 3 are confirmed, he would have had a historic 18 appointments to the highest court of the land. We'll hear from the minority and the response of the majority pretty shortly. But first, though, listen to First Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Joseph Owusu, announcing the nominations.
Subject to the satisfactory conclusion of the processes set out in Article 1442 of the Constitution, the following persons. 1. Justice Henry Anthony Kofi, Justice of Appeal. 2. Justice Yao Asaredako, Justice of Appeal. And 3. Justice Richard J. Frimpong, Justice of Appeal. On 27 July 2023, the Judicial Council advised me by letter under the hand of the Council's chairperson, Chief Justice Gertrude Araba Issa Basaki Tokono, of the suitability of my nominations of these persons for appointment to the Supreme Court. Upon receipt of the Judicial Council's advice and in accordance with my duty under Article 1442, I consulted with the Council of State by submitting the names and curricula vitae of the nominees for appointment to the court. The Council of State has, by a letter dated 11th August 2023, notified me of the successful completion of the consultation process. And therefore, in accordance with Article 1442 of the Constitution, seeking the approval of Parliament for the appointment of the nominees as Justice of the Supreme Court. Their CVs are attached. I am fully satisfied that each of these persons is duly qualified and eminently fit to discharge the functions of a Justice of the Supreme Court. I have endorsed their respective CVs for your attention, and I await your response as soon as possible. I thank you in advance for your cooperation.
My parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante is in the studio with me. Kweku, we know that 3 justices of the Supreme Court retired recently. We have the Chief Justice, Kwesi Nyebwa, retired. We also have Justice Nene Amegache, also retired. We have Justice Jones Doche, also retiring. Yep. Now, the argument from the president is that these 3 will need to be replaced.
Yes.
Hence, he brought the names to the floor today, announcing to the Parliament formally that he has gone ahead, consulted with the
Judicial Council and the Council of State.
And here are the names. So why is the minority side opposing this?
The minority say, in their view, there is no vacancy on the Supreme Court. Because if you look at the court as it is currently constituted, there are 12 of them. And 12 of them, according to the minority, can sit on all cases. In fact, if you look at the Supreme Court and its practices, they almost always empanel up to 9 judges to sit on every case. If there's a review on that case, it goes up to 11. According to the minority, if you look at this fact, it does not give room for President Akufo-Addo's claim. And that because the Constitution has not set a cap on the court, the President is simply taking advantage of that to pad it up.
I find it difficult to accept that the president will say that vacancies will be created because 3 other Supreme Court judges have retired. Now, your record will show that as we speak, we have 15 Supreme Court judges. Now, if the 3 are confirmed, no, he's appointed 15 Supreme Court judges. If these 3 nominees are also confirmed, that will make the number of his appointees at the Supreme Court since he assumed power in January 2017 to 18. But the evidence is that out of the 15 that we have, 3 have gone on retirement this year. So it means that we have 12 sitting Supreme Court judges who can actively serve the court. The full panel of the court is 9. So there's no vacancy at the court. Let the record reflect that I am saying that there's no vacancy at the Supreme Court to be filled. He is taking advantage of the constitutional lacuna for not placing a cap on the number of judges that can serve at the Supreme Court. So he has decided to increase the number from 12 to 15. So let the discussions be very clear and placed in context that as we speak, we don't have a vacancy at the Supreme Court as the president seeks to suggest. We have 12 Supreme Court judges who are capable of serving the court efficiently and effectively without any problem. Because a full panel of the court is 9. And on the average, the court is empaneled by 5 or 7 on regular basis. So I am shocked to hear that vacancies have been created when there are no such vacancies. The president is simply pardoning the court with more numbers.
So what is it that they claim they're going to do now?
Well, according to Roxanne Dafemekwel, this news came to them as a big surprise, and that as a caucus, they are really going to meet on this. To remind listeners, the last time the president nominated 4 judges, the minority let 2 go through without a fight, but the other 2 had to fight for their lives. Some of them getting to the Supreme Court by little margins as 2 MPs voting for them. According to Roxanne Nelson Dafemekwel, they are going to meet over this. They are going to take a decision as to whether or not they are going to oppose these 3 nominees.
Well, what about the majority side? What's your view on this?
Well, I caught up with the majority chief whip, Frank Anadompre. He says that, frankly, the points that have been canvassed by the minority are simply straw arguments. They are not founded on any law. As far as he is concerned, the president is properly in his capacity, the constitution and every other power that he has to appoint those persons, and the minority are simply blowing hot air.
He is a lawyer. He should tell us the legal basis for that statement. That is a sweeping statement. It's not tenable. It's not based in law. So she should know better. I'm surprised my good friend Dafemekwel will make such a strange statement. Packing the court. What is it supposed to mean?
If these 3 new go through, Akufo-Addo would have 18.
Is the president on all fours in terms of the law?
Yes.
Yeah, so what's the problem?
He believes he's taking advantage of the constitutional lacuna.
This is a civil, we are practicing a civil, democracy. And we are in a democracy. So if you think that the president has abused any of the laws, he knows what to do. But I commend the president for having having determined that, okay, there's a problem, there's a space. And then he filled the space. What's he saying? You should wait for the people to exit before they appoint. It's most unfair. I think the president is on all fours right in terms of the law. And so Dafemekwel should know better, and he should be guarded. We are speaking about law. I have a legal background. I'm not a lawyer, but I have a legal background. I don't expect people like him to speak like that. He should give it to their full soldiers to be making these accusations.
Roxanne Nelson Dafemekwel is the MP in question. He joins us on the line right now. He's a member of the Constitutional Legal Affairs Committee in Parliament. Kwame Appiah-Kubi is also with us. Andy Kwame Appiah-Kubi is MP for Asante Akim North, ranking member on the Subsidiary Legislation Committee. Also joins us. And Xavier Kudje he speaks for the Ghana Bar Association, also with us tonight. I want to start with you, Roxy. I mean, the law is very clear, is it not, that the president really has done this within his mandate. The Constitution gives him the right to do what he's done. So what's wrong? What's your issue here?
Now, my issue is in respect of the claim that there's a vacancy. I think that's the basis upon which the president is proceeding. And so I am also asking that anybody should show me where there's a vacancy in the court. The only vacancy that has been created has been the departure of the Chief Justice. And that has been expressly sealed by the current Chief Justice. So there's no vacancy. I dare anyone to show me that there's a vacancy. You only have a vacancy where the number of the available judges will be below 9. That is the only time that we can technically say that there's a vacancy at the court. Once the court is properly constituted with 9 justices or more, you cannot claim that there's a vacancy. There's no vacancy. Any further appointment to the court is to pad it. Anything above 9 is to pad the court, in my humble opinion.
Stay with me. I have Andy Apiakubi with me. Mr. Apiakubi, he's right, as you know. The Constitution sets a lower limit, not an upper limit. And so there's no vacancy, as he says. You agree?
Your position is correct. The interpretation being preferred by my colleague, Honorable Dapiamepo, is not the position as espoused in Article 1281 of the Constitution. And indeed, I'm happy that he says that is his opinion. And his opinion may be right or wrong. And on this occasion, I want to humbly suggest that is not the correct position of the law. And if you give me the opportunity to read, I will read 1281, and it says the Supreme Court shall consist of the Chief Justice and not less than 9 other justices of the Supreme Court. So it means that at no point in time would we have a Supreme Court of the Chief Justice and any number less than 9. And as you rightly put it, the correct interpretation of this provision is that the Supreme Court can have should be more than 9 plus the Chief Justice. So the more than 9 plus the Chief Justice is a situation that the Constitution prescribes. So it is only a situation where the justices are less than 9 that we will say that we don't have a Supreme Court. But as you rightly put it, the Constitution does not give any upper ceiling to the membership of the Supreme Court. And that is the correct position of the law.
Yes, that's a correct.
It's
a correct position of the law, but Master President, because there's no upper limit, simply put people there because he has the authority and the right to do so. What about being reasonable? What about also paying attention to the perceptions out there about what this means to the Supreme Court itself and the perceptions that this is being parted?
My brother, the 1 million perceptions will not constitute the position of law. Law is law, and if the premise of the law intended to put an upper limit, they would have put it like that. That is not to say that the appointee cannot exercise the jurisdiction judiciously. So the appointee, clothed with capacity to do anything, is mindful of the importance and also the expense items and also the relevance of actions. Nevertheless, if the Constitution did not restrict the numbers, then the numbers will appreciate upon relevance and upon capacity to do and upon availability of resources to manage. So once the appointee, clothed with capacity to appoint, have all the resources to be able to do what he has done and justify it by way of pointing to relevance and need, we are within the law. I mean, law is law. It is not within anybody's whims to want to put a cap or a ceiling when the law did not put in a ceiling. No such person has any such mandate to put any cap. And in any case, it is only the Supreme Court that has the mandate to interpret any provision of law if it becomes ambiguous or if there are ambiguities through the understanding or interpretation of it. And the law is also that the Supreme Court will only just interpret purposefully a provision of law if there is ambiguity, not when the provision is clear and unambiguous. And what I read to you under Article 128 is clear and unambiguous. So this one does not require any interpretation.
What about Roxon's argument about vacancy? He says there's no vacancy, so why is the president arguing that he needs to replace people?
We see the word vacancy, or we see the word ceiling upon which, when the number falls short, there is the creation of vacancy. The Constitution did not contemplate any vacancy arising out of numbers, except that the Constitution is saying that we cannot have a Supreme Court with less than 9. That is all that the Constitution says. So, unfortunately, if Mr. Rosen thinks that there must be a ceiling, that is his conception, and it remains a perception, and it is not the position of the law. In fact, when you are interpreting a legal provision, you must be apt in interpreting without applying your own opinions. Laws don't have room for opinions of members of a community or society. Laws are laws, and they are interpreted purposefully according to the terms of the provisions of the law.
Well, Roxing, it appears to me that your quarrel is really with the Constitution and not with the president. The president has done nothing wrong. You agree with that?
My quarrel is not with the president. My quarrel is with the Constitution. And the Constitution is very clear as to what should be done. The Constitution, and I think that my senior Apia Kubi should take his time. I think he's in a hurry to make some arguments that are not purposive. Purposively, the Supreme Court does not interpret the court to have 100 judges or 50 judges or 30 judges. So why is it that the president is not appointing up to 30 judges? So he cannot say that there's a vacancy. I am saying that reading the article that he quoted, there cannot be any interpretation to the effect that there's a vacancy. There's no vacancy. The only vacancy that has been created has been the retirement of the Chief Justice, and the Chief Justice has been effectively replaced. And when I speak of 9 justices, with all due respect to him, I don't speak in respect of the inclusion of the sitting Chief Justice. So we are not making law school arguments here. We are actually making purposive interpretation of what the provision says. My brother
becomes when
by some imagination or some enlargement of imagination, there's a vacancy that should be properly filled. When we have 12 sitting justices of the court, is it saying that the court cannot function with the present number of justices effectively and efficiently? So when I say that the president is pardoning the court, I am right. I am right because there's no ceiling. It's taking an advantage. And let me bring to his attention that the Supreme Court in any country is a political institution. The Supreme Court, in addition to being a law court, is also a political institution. But the Supreme Court has in this country determined where political powers will lie. So these matters are being discussed in some context. And I hope that you appreciate the context in which we are discussing the matter.
Roxanne, you say the president is pardoning the courts. Typically, that refers to the practice of increasing the number of judges in the judiciary to influence the court decisions. Now, before this year, in fact, you had 15 judges on the bench at the Supreme Court. Three of them retired. The president is simply restoring that number. If he had no worry, no quarrel with the 15 before, why should you have a concern that he's just restoring that number?
Evan, I will be shocked to hear you say that we didn't have problems with the 15. We had. It was part of the problems that happened in Parliament when some had to be approved and some had to go through voting.
But you approved them in the end.
That's Parliament.
Yes, Parliament.
That's Parliament. So the minority view didn't change, even though Parliament did approval. When Parliament makes a decision, whether or not you agree with it, you are bound. So we are saying that we disagree with the president increasing the number from 12 to 15. And now he wants to increase it to 18 with the respect of his appointment, because it is some vacancies.
No, he wants to keep it at 15, not 18. If you
cannot say he's keeping it at 15. That is not what the Constitution says. Is that what the Constitution says?
No, the Constitution doesn't also say that he cannot appoint as many judges as he wants.
So you should listen to me when I say that he's pardoning it. I'm not wrong at all.
But where's the evidence? You're questioning the president's motive for doing this.
The evidence lies in the Constitution. The Constitution says the court is properly constituted with 9 judges as well as the CJE.
But when in this Fourth Republic, including your own government, did we have exactly 9 justices of the Supreme Court? We've always had more.
Time was when we had 11.
But it's still not 9.
Sorry?
It's still not the minimum.
But
number.
I am not saying that. I am saying the minimum should be 9. If you have the minimum, you cannot say that there's a vacancy. That is my argument. And I hope that you can appreciate that.
Stay with me. I want to bring in the spokesperson for the Ghana Bar Association. And the reason why it is important to hear them, they've been concerned about comments that obviously tend to reduce the judiciary in the eyes of right-thinking members of society, affecting the reputation, the credibility of the judiciary. Sabia Kuje, where do you stand on the questions that we are currently interrogating?
Evan, thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity. I don't think that there is any issue about this thing, in the sense that the Constitution gives us a minimum number of justices that must be appointed. It doesn't give us a ceiling. But practically what has been happening is that we've been hovering around 15, 16, 17. And over the years, what has always been done is that when people retire or unfortunately die, new appointments are made to replace them. So if at this time we are saying that once we have a minimum of 9, there will be no need for any appointments, I will not agree with that, because let us also be mindful of the fact that many more cases increasingly keep going on appeal, and the Supreme Court happens to be the highest and final appellate court. And the people who go there mostly are elderly people. So considering the workload, I don't think that the president is doing anything wrong by appointing 3 more justices to replace the justices that have retired, because he would then not be breaking the practice of hovering around the 15, 16, 17 that we have. So if Roxanne himself is saying that, Mr. Dafia Mekwa himself is saying that 3 out of the 15 have retired, and he's making appointment by replacing them, I don't think he's making anything new. If he were doing more than the 15, I think that would have been a concern.
He will still be within the law.
So I don't think anybody is doing anything unlawful as far as these appointments are concerned. Yeah, we may have a problem as far as the provisions of the Constitution are concerned, but that is something we have to sit down as a nation to address.
You are
because so far I can say that I've not seen any president who has gone beyond the 16, 17 that we have. They keep replacing. There is likely to be a retirement. I think there has been a retirement in October. So one more appointment can be made.
I hear you say you're in favor of placing an upper limit, a ceiling.
Yeah, I have always maintained that this will have to be done we have to do it as a people, because it may be abused one day. Because a president can come and say that, look, I will not do the 15, 16 that everybody has been doing. Upon replacement, I'll still appoint more. And the Constitution allows it. But so far, practically, none of them have done that. All they've been doing is to do the replacement. When people go on retirement or unfortunately they die, they replace them. But the upper limit, I'll call for that.
Andy Appiah-Kubi, you support the placement of an upper limit?
Yes, if as a country we decide to put an upper limit through the Constitution, that will be for it. But for now, we don't have any such upper limit. And therefore, in the interpretation of the constitutional provision that contemplates any upper limit will be unconstitutional and unlawful. And if we want an upper limit to be placed, let it so be through our laws. And I'm very disappointed when people want to import propaganda into interpretation of law. Law is law.
You're accusing Mr. Biafia of smuggling in propaganda.
And if you know, this is indeed for all lawyers. My expectation is that when you wear the legal cap, you operate as a lawyer and not as a political lawyer. So when the words are in black and white like that, and you contemplate any diversions and variations, then you are diluting the law. And that is not what we expect lawyers to do. You take the law as it is and do the law as it is and interpret it as it is, not as you expect, no, as it is, or not as you want it to be. So the law, the position of the law is that, and as my senior was saying, Senior Kluge was saying that yes, the president may come, you may want to do 20, 25, whatever. He will still be within the law if he does that. But Senior Kluge again was talking about precedent. Precedent has always been that do around 15. And precedent is really not law, but it is practice that is wholesome. So we could do around 15. And indeed, the unfortunate situation that Roxanne has is that we have always been around 15. And in fact, when NDC was in power, it was also around 15. And the practice has been that replace retiring judges or judges who are dead. So if he is replacing retiring judges, 3 of them retired recently, he's replacing them. What is wrong with that? So I don't see why Honorable Biafia Mapo should find any mischief when the president is replacing.
Okay. Mr. Biafia Mapo?
Already agreed number. Already.
Yes. Mr. Piakubi, let me hear. Mr. Piakubi.
Hold on.
Mr. Piakubi, let me hear Mr. Biafia Mapo.
And the Piakubi has a penchant of abusing anytime we are engaged in a debate such as this on radio. And I take serious exception to it. This is a very serious matter we are discussing. I have made the point that in addition to the court being a court of law, it is also a political court. He has not disputed that.
I disagree with you.
Hold on.
We don't have political courts.
Mr. Piakubi, if you may please allow him to. Mr. Piakubi,
can you be quiet?
Mr. Piakubi, if you may, yes.
Number 2, let me ask Sabia Kuje whether the president came to meet between 2017 and now, whether 18 judges have retired from the Supreme Court. I want to ask him. Have we had 18 judges retiring from the Supreme Court between 2017 and now? It hasn't happened. It's been 12. So why is the president appointing 18 within this period? Only 12 judges have retired between 2017 and now, about 12. So if he says that the numbers have been hovering around 15, 16, it is not a fact. Jerry Rawlings during the second and the first sense of parliament didn't do 15. The numbers hovered around 12. Evans, do we have an upper limit as to the number of ministers the president can appoint? No. But this president told us once upon a time that he needed 125 ministers. He appointed 125 ministers. How many ministers is he working with now? Is it not 84? So there's reasonability to the constitutional provision. That is why in interpretation we call it purposive interpretation. There's a purpose.
Roxy.
If they think that there's no upper limit, they can encourage the president. And tomorrow it will be abused. But today I have the right to say that the president is abusing the provision by padding the court with 3 additional appointments.
Roxy,
and I stand by it.
Roxy, you have the final authority when this comes to Parliament. The Parliament will have to approve these nominations. What will you do?
If you recall, the previous appointments were resistant, but the numbers game in Parliament held sway. I am sure in this matter, if the minority comes to a certain definitive position on it, we will pursue that.
Thank you very much. Roxanne Nelson Dafamekbo. Xavier Kujue speaks for the Ghana Bar Association. You heard him earlier expressing his thoughts on the subject, and Andy Apia Kubi also on that. What are your own thoughts on this? 055 11 997. Ghana Connect in a minute.